For the first time in Purdue history, the football team will have a sponsorship on the field this fall.
You are Locked On Boilermakers, your daily podcast on the Purdue Boilermakers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Boilermakers here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the number one sports podcast network where it's your team every day. As always, I'm your host. I am Nick Arvin. I'm talking Boilermakers every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the only daily Purdue show out there. And today we have kind of a groundbreaking, exciting episode to talk about because Purdue has partnered with Progressive for the 2026 season in a sponsorship that will include Progressive branding on the field. What does that mean for Purdue going forward? Is this just the first step in things to come under Tommy McClelland at Purdue? We'll get into that in the first segment of today's show. We'll then transition into some lingering concerns I still have, even though overall I'm optimistic about Purdue football heading into this year. There's still a few things I'm worried about. We'll finish off today's episode with our weekly edition of Boilermaker Buy, Sell, Hold. So it's certain to be a fun one as always. And before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by KALSHI. For a limited time, download the KALSHI app and use code Locked On to get $10 when you trade 10. Let's get right into it because the news breaks yesterday, and we saw this coming if we're going to be completely honest, especially with the ruling now that colleges can put logos on their jerseys. You can put brand logos on their jerseys. And then Tommy McClelland comes over from Rice, but was also at Vanderbilt, has been huge in those schools in terms of fundraising, finding different ways to bring more revenue to the school. Honestly, it was just a matter of time for Purdue before they found themselves some type of sponsorship. And I want to approach this from two different directions. I want to be upfront and say that, number one, I don't think this is a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think that this is a bad thing for Purdue. I don't think this is a bad thing for the program because ultimately this is the direction college sports is going, like it or not. And I know a ton of people, and I would put myself in the camp of probably don't like it. I want to preserve the traditions and the history of this sport. And it feels like the more you monetize it, the more you add NIL, it's just going to lead to stuff like this, like those jersey sponsors that have never been a thing before. But for Purdue, if you don't join in, you get left out. And that's just the reality of the situation. That's the same in NIL. That's the same in the transfer portal. That is now the same with these sponsorships. And although Purdue is yet to get that jersey sponsor, we now know more about the Progressive deal that came out yesterday. So Purdue will become the 13th school to partner this year with Progressive. The other schools are Boise State, Colorado, Georgia, Iowa, Kansas State, Ole Miss, Oregon, SMU, Syracuse, Texas Tech, USC, and Wake Forest. The deal will include, and this is the primary part of this deal, is that the Progressive logo will be on the field at Ross-Ade this year. So the first time in history that Purdue has had a logo on its field at Ross-Ade. Feel how you want to feel about it. And this is kind of the other direction I wanted to take this. It's going to be tough for a lot of people to adjust to this, and especially from a Purdue perspective, because I mean, throughout the history of this program, throughout the history of this athletic department, this has been a program that's extremely protective of its brand, extremely protective of what does or does not happen at Ross-Ade, at Mackey Arena. Sponsorships aren't necessarily something I feel like this program would be very comfortable with before Tommy McClelland. And we see with Mackey Arena, Ross-Ade, those aren't necessarily venues that do concerts or stuff like that. There's just not a whole lot of, they're very protected. That's really the way that I want to put it, is that those two venues are very protected. So putting Progressive, putting the logo on the field, I think it's a sign of things to come. To be completely frank with you, for West Lafayette, for those two venues, for this program as a whole, it's going to be a sign of things to come. I think that this Progressive deal is just the start. Once again, Purdue is yet to have a jersey sponsor. That's something that a lot of different programs are going with. I think that comes sooner rather than later, to be completely honest. Is it progressive? Probably not. I would think that would be a part of this deal if Progressive was going to be the jersey sponsor. But it's just a matter of time until Purdue ends up putting a sponsor on those jerseys, like it or not. That is the way that college sports are going right now. But I want to get into the Tommy McClelland side of this, because I think that that's where the really, I don't want to say devil in the details, but that's where things get really interesting. And why I think this is a bigger deal than just Purdue signing a contract for Progressive to be a primary sponsor for Purdue football this year, because I think this is a sign of things to come, not just for Purdue, but specifically because of Tommy McClelland. I mentioned the Vanderbilt history. I mentioned that he did one of the biggest fundraisers and honestly helped get Vanderbilt some funding to be from the bottom of the SEC now to where they are and finding a little bit of success in that conference. He had great success at Rice fundraising as well. And now he comes to Purdue, and he, in that introductory press conference, that was primarily the point I was trying to make with the whole, if you don't want to win championships, then go to Indiana thing. A lot of what Tommy McClelland said during his introductory press conference was good, and what Purdue fans needed to hear, what everyone needed to hear for the way that this program is going to go under Tommy McClelland. The fundraising backing, all of that stuff was really good, but it all gets overshadowed by that comment that he made. And now I feel like we're going back. I feel like there's some more positive PR now surrounding Tommy McClelland, the new athletic director at Purdue, because of this progressive deal. And let's be completely honest. Some people are saying, well, this was done before. This was done during Mike Babinski's tenure. I personally don't think this deal would have been made during Mike Babinski's tenure. And that's not a knock on Babinski. It's just he never expected for college sports to get to the point they are now. This is not what he signed up for. This is not what he expected, which is a primary reason why he is retiring at the end of this year and allowing a new guy to come in and letting a new guy in Tommy McClelland that's a little bit more eager to dive into that pool of NIL, fundraising, sponsors. Tommy McClelland is the right guy. I truly do believe that Tommy McClelland is the right guy. I love the progressive deal for Purdue. I know that some traditionalists are going to look at this and say, hey, this has never happened before. We've never had a sponsor on Ross-Ade. It shouldn't start now. And I understand the argument, but it could have been something much worse. There are teams right now that are signing sponsorships with just I don't want to get too far into it because that's not my place to say anything, but I will say this. Progressive is a reputable brand. Progressive is a brand that a lot of people know worldwide, and it's a brand that has a decent amount of positive PR. I would put it that way. There are a lot worse deals that Tommy McClelland and that Purdue could have signed than with Progressive to be on the field in 2026. So I think that this is the first big move Tommy McClelland has made as athletic director. And although his tenure got off a little bit shaky with the whole Indiana thing, for me, this is a sign that the athletic department is going in the right direction when it pertains to sponsorships, when it pertains to fundraising, when it pertains to building up revenue for this program, because that's what Purdue football needs. Purdue basketball going to be just fine under Matt Painter, but this football team needs resources. They're towards the bottom, if not the very least program in terms of funding, in terms of resources for Big Ten football. So Tommy McClelland was brought in to make changes. I understand the traditionalist approach of, hey, let's not ruin the reputation or the brand power that Purdue has. But this is what this program needs right now. This is what this athletic department needs. And I think the deal with Progressive will be a positive step in the right direction for Purdue. Does a jersey sponsor come next? Honestly, I think it's just inevitable at this point. I think it's just when is it going to happen, not if it's going to happen. So let's hope that Tommy McClelland is able to bring in a solid jersey sponsor the way he was able to with Progressive as the field sponsor this year for 2026. But an interesting news day, an interesting breaking story that Purdue has partnered with Progressive for the 2026 season. Definitely let me know down below in the comments your thoughts on the Progressive deal. Is that something good for Purdue? Is that something you don't want to see? But coming up here next, I'm going to talk to you guys about something I don't want to see and some lingering concerns I still have about Purdue football heading into year 2 of the Barry Odom era. That's coming up here next on Locked On Boilermakers. There are more live events than ever we're seeing right now. Games, concerts, comedy shows, and festivals. The hard part usually isn't deciding what you want to attend. It's actually getting the tickets. Between long wait times, confusing checkout processes, and surprise fees, buying tickets can sometimes feel harder than it should. And that's why so many fans are turning to Gametime. The app is built to make buying tickets simple with upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive saving opportunities that help you get to the events you want without the usual hassle. Right now is the perfect time to get in with Gametime because football is kicking off at Ross 8. And right now, tickets are under $10 to get into those first 2 games. Big game against Wake Forest in week 2. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets to every type of event with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. 16 days is all that's left until Purdue's week 1 matchup on Friday night against Indiana State. It's going to be a fun one, and surely that one should be a Purdue win. I don't want to put anything in the air, but that one should be a Purdue win to start out 1-0 on the season. But as we get towards the end of fall camp and head into the regular season, there have been a lot of positives for me regarding where Purdue football is at. I think Ryan Browne has had an excellent fall. I think the running back group is looking like one of the better groups within the Big Ten. Maybe that's biased. Maybe they're just ultra talented. And then on the defensive side, I think the linebacker group looks really good right now under Kevin Kane, but there are still some spots on the field where I do have concerns. Some spots where as we get towards the end of the fall, there's still areas I look at and say, how is this going to develop over the course of the next 2 to 3 weeks? So that's what I wanted to get into here in the second segment of today's episode. And I really want to start out at the tight end position. This isn't anybody's fault, but now we're in a situation because Kylan Fox, last week, if you were watching the show, UCF transfer, was supposed to be a solid piece, one of the starters with them. That tight end group goes down with a season-ending injury, and it really hurts Purdue's tight end group because George Burhenn, he's supposed to be a solid tight end this year. He's supposed to be that starter, the number 1 guy in the tight end group, and that was going to be the case even before the Kylan Fox injury. But there are concerns about Burhenn right now because last year only plays 3 games, I believe, not a lot of production because the injury shut down his season. And now going into 2026, is he a guy that you trust as of right now to be the sole tight end of production coming off of that injury? I'm not sure. I think that Burhenn has the potential to have a big year, but those injuries are always tough to come back from. And you would have felt a lot more confident having that 1A, 1B combo of Burhenn and Kylan Fox. Now, everything is on Burhenn's shoulders. And I don't necessarily know if that's a situation you want to be in with a guy that is coming off an injury in the way that Burhenn did sustain. So I have some concerns right now about the tight end group. I have some concerns about George Burhenn. Is he going to be able to carry that load all by himself? I mean, we'll see. We'll see how that ends up playing out. But my second thing of concern, and this is with the wide receiver group in a very similar spot as the tight end group, and it's really who is going to be the one that steps up. We've heard reports that Denylon Morissette has had great chemistry throughout fall camp alongside Ryan Browne. That's something that I've been pretty vocal about that I want to see because those guys do have chemistry. They've been together longer than anybody else right now in this receiving core, especially bringing in 4 transfers that are expected to be key players this year for the offense. But I want to see someone step up. I want to see one of these transfers step up, say, hey, maybe Denylon Morissette's going to be a great guy, but I was brought here for a reason. I was brought here to further my collegiate career, to break out at Purdue and open up different opportunities for me. Is that Asad Waseem? Is that Xavier Townsend? Is that BZ Owen, Shaylin Hornsby? We don't know right now, and that's why there is a reason for concern, because there is so much ambiguity about who's going to step up and be that receiver one for this team. There's a lot of optimism. There's a lot of hype surrounding Asad Waseem, but I truly think Xavier Townsend is a guy that's going to be a key player for Purdue in 2026. How does all of that play out? We don't know as of right now, which is why it's a concern for me as we sit. Another concern I have is on the offensive line, because Purdue is going to have 4 new starters this year for that offensive line. And while I think that Barry Odom was able to bring in a lot of talent there, including Zach Crabtree, who will be the new offensive line coach in 2026, bringing in power 4 transfers to go along with that, I'm a little bit concerned right now because only 2 starters are pretty clear as we see it. Now, Joey Tenona will be the starting left tackle this year. Boaz Stanley from South Carolina will be the starting center this year and was one of the best players Barry Odom was able to bring in the transfer portal. But the other 3 spots right now are up for grabs, and I don't love that just 2 weeks out from the season, because the offensive line is one of those positions where you have to have chemistry. You have to have these guys all on the same page in order to really succeed over the course of the season. And that's something that we've seen maybe Purdue hasn't been great at in recent years. So I want to see that get figured out, and things get even worse because Joey Tenona goes down 2 days ago with a left ankle sprain. That shouldn't keep him out too long, but still, just a lot of ambiguity on that offensive line. And I don't want to say that's a bad thing that you have guys competing, but I would like to start to see some of these spots get filled. You got Ethan Trent, maybe Mason Bakari fighting for that right guard spot. Micah Bonalos and Makai Sinai are guys from USC. Maybe they could fit that guard spot. Then at right tackle, it's Jatavius Shivers fighting out right now against Nuku Mafi, the Oklahoma State transfer. Hopefully some of those spots give us a little bit more clarity soon so Zach Crabtree can know exactly what he's working with when it comes to the offensive line as the regular season kicks off. On the defensive side of the ball, I think there are some concerns. Now, the biggest of them all is Kevin Kane. And I've come out, I think that the defense is going to be better this year under Kevin Kane. I think that Kevin Kane has an opportunity to prove a lot of the haters wrong that said he has no business coming back to Purdue after the way that he kind of misused some players under Ryan Walters. And while I think that's a fair criticism and that's a fair thing to say, I made an entire episode explaining why I think that Kevin Kane is the guy for Purdue, because honestly, he's a West Lafayette loyalist. Whenever he left the Purdue job, got fired, whatever you want to call it, his whole family stayed in West Lafayette, right? And that's kind of rare. A lot of times you'll see these assistant coaches have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, want to leave. And I don't feel like that has necessarily been the case for Kevin Kane. So I know that doesn't have anything to do with the field, but you look at the linebacker position, I think that he's done a good job coaching up those linebackers in addition to being the defensive coordinator. There are things to be positive about, and there's things to be optimistic about when it comes to Kevin Kane, but that is a bit of a concern, is how is he going to be able to mesh all of these new guys together in addition to retain guys like a Charles Correa, a CJ Madden, a Hadori Hines. There's a lot of pieces that need meshing together. And while I have faith in Kevin Kane, I understand why some people would be concerned about that defensive unit right now. The spot I'm really a little bit concerned about would be the pass rush. While I think that Purdue will be decent in the pass rush, Elo Mendoza is one that a lot of Purdue fans, including myself, are very excited about coming over an edge rusher from Georgia. You're running a 3-4 defense this year. CJ Madden could be a key pass rusher, but you lose a lot of guys as well. Jamarion Harkless, who is a nice piece of Purdue's defensive line this year. I want to see how this defensive line operates. I want to see how Elo Mendoza is used, and ultimately it's up to Kevin Kane. I think this is a year where the defensive coordinator is going to have a large effect on the overall standard or the overall production of this defense with how he uses some of these guys, because the talent is there. Elam Madoze, all these linebackers, Anthony Speca, JoJo Hayden, Charles Correa back. The talent is certainly there in the front seven. I think ultimately it's just up to how does Kevin Kane decide to use these guys, and does he use them in a way where Purdue's defense is one that is feared in the Big Ten? And that's truly what this defense needs to get to, because I mean, I love Ryan Browne. I think that he's a guy that is back for the right reasons. I think he's a guy that can produce, but ultimately it's not an offense where you're going to break records. Maybe the running game will be great this year, but it's not a passing offense where you're going to break records. So you need a defense that's going to keep you in the game and give your offense the ability to win that this year. It's a bit of a concern still for me, but I think that we're on the right path. I think that we are on the right trajectory pertaining to Purdue's defense and how they're going to look headed in to 2026. So those are some of my concerns. I would say the defense is a big one for a lot of people, but for me, I'm a little bit more optimistic about how that defense is going to look under Kevin Kane, as opposed to some other talking heads or Purdue fans out there. We will see how that plays out because once again, we are so close, just 16 days until kickoff against Indiana State for week 1. It's almost here, and I can feel it. Football is almost back. And to end off today's episode, we're going to end it out with our weekly segment, Boilermaker Buy, Sell, Hold. That's coming up here next on Locked On Boilermakers. Before the season even kicks off, everyone's making predictions. Who wins the division? Who makes the playoffs? Who's lifting the trophy at season's end? Well, on KALSHI, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market. And right now is the perfect time to get in with KALSHI, because Purdue basketball to win the Natty is right around 1%. That means that you can hold on to that, and whenever Matt Painter overexceeds those expectations, you can sell it for a lot more than what you bought for at just 1%. On KALSHI, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house, and as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. Trade the draft pick, the game, and more on KALSHI. Download the KALSHI app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade 10. KALSHI. KALSHI. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. KALSHI products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. This week's Boilermaker Buy, Sell, Hold is going to be a little bit more stat-based than what you've seen in previous weeks. If you're new here, if you just haven't seen this segment before, Boilermaker Buy, Sell, Hold is going to be a series of 4 questions. Buy means, well, I believe in it. Sell means that's not something I can see happening this year. And hold means we're going to have to push this forward to a future week, a future segment of Boilermaker Buy, Sell, Hold in order to figure out, is that something I then believe or don't believe? So we'll jump right in today with our first question about stats in 2026. And it's, will Jerrick Gibson lead Purdue in rushing? The transfer over from Texas. This has been a very interesting one. We had Dustin Chudy over from Boilermakers on SI not too long ago, and I asked him his thoughts on this question. He didn't think so. He thought it was a possibility, but didn't think so. He thought Fame Ijobi would be the one that would end up leading Purdue in rushing come 2026. And it makes sense. Fame is definitely going to be one of the physical backs, one of the feature backs within Purdue's offense. But I don't think he's going to be the only feature back. In my opinion, he's 1A, 1B when it comes to his production next to Jerrick Gibson. Fame is going to be that guy that is a little bit more heavy of a runner, more physical between the tackles and can wear down a defense, whereas Jerrick Gibson is going to be that one where he's a home run threat, an early down back that can get you some chunk yardage, and Fame is going to be more of that third down back, third and short, and even a better pass protector as well. So it'll be interesting to see, but I do think I'm going to buy this. I think that Jerrick Gibson beats out Fame in rushing yards come the end of the year because of that home run threat. Even if Fame, and I could see it being 50-50, but even if Fame gets 60-40 of the carries compared to Jerrick Gibson, I see Jerrick Gibson averaging out more, which will then allow for him to probably lead this team in rushing come year's end. It's one of the toughest questions when you talk about stats for this team in 2026, but I am going to say Jerrick Gibson leads Purdue in rushing come the end of the year. The second question I've got for today's episode of Boilermaker Buy, Sell, Hold is, will the very hyped up Asad Waseem coming over from FAU lead Purdue in receiving yards in 2026? And this is one that I hit on in the previous segment, talking about this receiving core where I need someone to step up. We need a player to step up and be that leading receiver for Purdue in 26. And the thing I love about the transfers that Barry Odom was able to bring in, those 4 transfers at receiver, is that they're all kind of different. And that's how you want your receivers. You want all of your receivers to be different type of players. You bring in BZ Owens, who's that 6'4", 6'5", jump ball physical receiver on the outside. You have Denylon Morissette, who is a great route runner who can get open and create space. And then you have Xavier Townsend and Asad Waseem, those quick slot guys that can get off the line quick and can get those quick receptions for Ryan Browne. I think all of those guys produce some value, but the thing with Asad Waseem is I think Xavier Townsend and Asad Waseem are very similar players, and that could prevent one or the two of those guys from breaking out. As of right now, I think Denylon Morissette will lead Purdue in receiving yards come 2026, assuming that he stays healthy over the course of the season. So I'm going to sell on Asad Waseem being Purdue's leading receiving yard, or being Purdue's receiving yard leader, not because he's not good, but just because Xavier Townsend is similar, in my personal opinion, to what Asad Waseem is going to bring in. Question number 3, will Ryan Browne double his touchdown total in 26, throwing 18 touchdowns on the year? I'm going to say I'm between hold and buy, because I want to see how the first couple of weeks play out. I want to see how it plays out against Wake Forest, a Power 4 program, see kind of the attack, how Ryan Browne looks against that offense. I think it's possible, but I think it's going to be a more conservative offense this year. Whereas Ryan Browne was just chucking the ball last year, that resulted in 10 interceptions, just 9 touchdowns. I think that Ryan Browne will take care of the ball a little bit better in 2026, but I also don't necessarily think there will be a massive jump in his production because of how run heavy this team is expected to be come this fall. So we'll see how that plays out. He could, in theory, double his touchdown total to 18, but I just don't think he's going to have the volume inside the red zone in order to achieve that total. But hopefully he does. I think that would put Purdue in a great position if he ends up throwing 18 touchdowns on the year. Just doesn't seem too likely with the kind of offense that Barry Odom's going to want to run in 2026. The last question is kind of just a shoe-in, but I wanted to throw this one on here as well. Is it Charles Correa? Will he lead Purdue in tackles come 2026? I think this one's pretty obvious. He will lead Purdue in tackles at linebacker. He is Purdue's most dynamic linebacker. I would go as far to say he is Purdue's most dynamic defensive player this year. Retained linebacker, comes over from UNLV, is loyal to Barry Odom, is just a playmaker out there on the weak side, or can also go to the middle strong side. Wherever you need him, Charles Correa is one that can make a play. Had a few sacks last year as well, so getting to the quarterback is a positive thing. But no doubt in my mind, if Charles Correa ends up staying healthy this year, that is a buy, that Charles Correa will lead Purdue in tackles. And I'll go one further for you. I think that Charles Correa is an all Big Ten linebacker come the end of this year. And it's going to be a fun season. I can't wait. It's going to be a step in the right direction, whether that's 3-9 or whether that's 5-7, maybe even a bowl game if Purdue pulls off a couple big upsets. I don't know how it's going to play out, nor does anyone out there. Last year, I said Purdue was going to make a bowl game, and they didn't win a conference game again. So I don't know how it's going to play out, but I am optimistic about this team as we sit right now. I think there are some great pieces. I think that this program's heading in the right direction. I think Ryan Browne has really taken a jump this offseason, but you don't know because football is played on grass. It is not played on paper, and we just have over 2 weeks until we get to see that grass on Progressive Field, I guess now, as Progressive is that sponsor. I got my lingering concerns. I told you guys about that. And ultimately, I think there's some guys that are going to break out in the stat column this year as well. So that's all I got for you guys today on today's episode of Locked On Boilermakers. Thank you guys, as always, for supporting the show. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, comment. All that really helps us out a ton as we want to continue growing on that platform. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or whatever your preferred podcast listening platform, make sure you leave 5 stars on that as well. Also really helps us get discovered. So once again, that's all I got for you guys today. So until tomorrow, as always, boiler, hammer down.